What is going on, guys? Tom here, and today I'm bringing you guys a video that a bunch of you requested in the comments of my last car comparison video, and that is the most epic battle, the most wanted showdown, the biggest battle of this entire supercar generation, the McLaren MP4-12C versus the Ferrari 458 Italia. Now, these two were literally made as rivals to each other. They have very close to the same horsepower, they are very close in performance, and they are just, it's like they were made to battle each other. Now, we're going for a top speed run in the MP4-12C right now, and you start to hit the top range at about 200, 201, 202 was about where we topped out at. And it's pretty good run for a stock car. I mean, definitely, it definitely impressed me. I wasn't sure exactly what it was going to be like or how it was going to do. And not only did it do very well top speed-wise, but it also did quite well on the launch. I definitely think it had a better launch than the Ferrari did. Now, just before I go any further, I do want to let you guys know that I have absolutely... this is like for people that don't watch my videos regularly, or maybe new subscribers that are just new to the channel. I don't use any assists at all. So traction control is off, stability control is off. Anything that could help me get traction easier is off. Any of the launch... anything that could help me get traction on launch is off. So this is basically how these cars launch purely. So on the way back, we hit about 200. Well, actually, excuse me, 201. And obviously, since there's a little tiny bit of an incline on this highway. So overall, impressed with the MP4-12C's speed capabilities and acceleration capabilities. Now, we are in the 458 Spider here, and the reason for that is because I do not have the GameStop special pre-order Ferrari 458 hardtop. If I had that, then I would be using that for this competition. So I don't want anything in the comments below. Why didn't you use the coupe? Why didn't you use the 458 hardtop? You know, whatever. Whatever. I'm using the Spider. Deal with it. Now, the 458 had a little bit of a harder time getting off the line. The launch wasn't as crisp and clean. But when it got going, it actually, even though it didn't have as high of a top speed as the McLaren, it felt like it actually pulled harder than the McLaren did. It felt like it was, even though it's hard to explain, even though it wasn't going faster than the McLaren, it felt like it had a higher top speed than the McLaren. And I thought I was going like 205. Until I looked down at the speedometer and realized I was only topping out at about 190. But that's the thing is, and I'm sure it would have a little bit of a higher top speed if I was in the hardtop version. But like I said, I don't have the GameStop special pre-order edition, so I don't have the hardtop. So the thing with the 458 is that it's very, it involves you in the drive very, very well. It involves you with the dynamics of the car. It makes you really feel like you're driving. Turn 10 and Playground for some reason did an extra specially good job, I think, on the 458 and the 458 Spider, because they just feel so good to drive. They're so smooth, they sound great, and they're an absolute blast to drive. They really are. Now, the McLaren did manage a higher top speed in the top speed test, so the top speed test is definitely going to the McLaren, although I really enjoyed driving the Ferrari as well. Now, the next comparison we have is drifting, and just as before, the MP4-12C is going to go first. And this is actually interesting because both cars are mid-engine, and they both have V8s, but one, the MP4-12C, has a twin-turbo V8, and the Ferrari 458 Italia, or no, 458 Spider, I'm sorry, has a naturally aspirated V8. Now, I was really impressed with the McLaren's drifting abilities. It was very smooth, and keep in mind, these cars are both completely stock and mid-engine, so they are a little bit tricky to drift. But I was impressed with the McLaren, actually, for drifting. It had it had that feeling of wanting to slide. Once you initiate a drift, it actually wants to slide, and I was expecting it to want to stay grippy, since it's a very focused car. It's a very grip focused car, but it's actually a lot more drift friendly than you might think. It's willing to get the tail end out, and but it's very smooth when you do it. It's not like say, it's not hard to manage sometimes. Like, oh, I'm trying to think of a car. Specifically a mid-engine car, like maybe a Pagani, for example. A Pagani is sometimes hard to hold on the limit. You can hold it, you can do it, but you really have to practice at it. It's one of those cars that if you go just a little bit too far, it will bite you and snap all the way around. This McLaren won't do that. This McLaren is a very, very, very smooth car to drift and have a good time with. Now, I decided to stop the drift run there because I thought I'd pretty much felt what the car kind of felt the car and had a really good feel for it. Now, the 458. Now, this is actually interesting. I was expecting the 458 to be more of a hoon machine than the McLaren, but actually, it's the opposite. The 458 didn't want to hold a slide as much as the McLaren did. The 458 was always always had to fight it because it always wanted to get back into grip. It didn't want to stay sideways for more than one corner or so. It was very I guess the best way to describe it is it was very twitchy. And I know that's a thing with Ferraris and Forza. I've experienced a lot of other Ferraris and Forza that are very twitchy, but the McLaren was smooth in the drift, and the 458 was twitchy in a drift. And I'm not exactly sure why that is, but it seems like whenever you get the 458 sideways, it's always fighting with you, and it really wants to pull you back around into grip. Now, opposite, like I said, opposite of the McLaren, which actually helped you stay sideways. Once you got the McLaren sideways, it was almost like it wanted you to get sideways. It was like, oh, this is how the driver wants to drive. I'm going to help him stay there. The 458, it does make you work for it. It's a fun car to mess around in and drift in, but it really does make you work for it. It makes you work for your drifts, but then again, since it makes you work for them, it does make it very satisfying when you do pull off a really, really nice drift in a 458. Now, so as far as drifting goes, I think I would definitely give it to the McLaren. The McLaren was a lot smoother and a lot more controllable. Now, the final test is a race. So, a point-to-point race up Red Rock against the MP4-12C. I'm in the 458 Spider. We got my buddy, oh god, what's his name? I'm trying to remember his name right now. My buddy Benny in the McLaren. And as you can see, that launch thing that I talked about earlier is proven right here. That McLaren took off. And remember, he doesn't have any assists on either. And throughout this entire run, it was almost like I was sort of frantically trying to catch up with this McLaren. And I would slightly gain a little bit of ground in the corners, but as soon as we would hit a straightaway, that McLaren was gone. Every single time we'd hit a straightaway, boom, gone. I mean, he messed up a little bit there, which is why I was able to get close to him again. But you'll notice, I get close in the corners. See, I'm getting closer in the corners, and then we get out of the corner, and he got a little tail happy, but then he just goes, and he's shot off again. And I think that's down to the forced induction, definitely, down to those twin turbos. They really, really feed in the power quite well, and they really give that extra bit of, not grunt, because it's not a muscle car, but they give, it's a British supercar, so I guess I want to say a little bit of extra sophisticated power to the McLaren. And the 458, while the 458 does sound better, the McLaren definitely, I think, puts down its power a little bit better, and I think that's due to its really, really, really well dialed in suspension. When you drive the McLaren, you can tell that the suspension is working with you. It's working It's working for you, and it's working with you. It's feeling the road, and it's adjusting ever so slightly to your movements and the way the road feels to its suspension itself. So it's a lot easier of a car to drive. Now, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, the McLaren has been outdoing the Ferrari performance-wise. It has been basically beating the Ferrari in all the different performance aspects. Well, almost all of the different performance aspects. But I don't think that gives it the win. I think that you have to factor in the personalities of each car, and you have to factor in the attitudes of each car as well, because if you consider the difference in how these cars are, the McLaren is passion through science, and the Ferrari is passion in a whole different sense. It has an attitude of its own. It has these, this growl and howl that almost feels like it's alive. So if we were to declare a winner here, I'd say it's up to you guys. I would personally pick the McLaren. That's my personal favorite out of the two. I like the McLaren, but I mean, it's totally up to you. So if you guys enjoyed that video, don't forget to hit that like button. Tell me in the comment section below what you thought of it, and if you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe for more.